Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Mystery Rift. I'm David Paulides. Thanks for being here. You know, doing this kind of work, digging into the missing 411 files and looking at these disappearances day in and day out, it takes a serious toll. I'm the kind of person who tends to feel the emotions of these families, maybe more than some folks do, and it drags me down sometimes. Because when you look into the eyes of a parent who doesn't know where their child is, you're looking into a void that nothing else can fill. Today, we have two cases that represent the absolute extremes of this phenomenon. One is a heartbreaking update on a toddler in France from a place they literally call the Village of the Damned. The other takes us back to 1,949 inches, Quebec, to a young man who vanished so completely that even the best bloodhounds gave up or simply refused to track. There are patterns here. There are coincidences that, if you've been following my work, you'll know aren't really coincidences at all. Let's get into it. First, we need to talk about Émile Soleil, a cute little guy, 2.5 years old, who went missing on July 8th, 2023. Usually, when you first hear about a disappearance, the possibilities are wide open. But when the victim is a 2-year-old toddler, the choices narrow drastically. A 2-year-old doesn't simply stage a disappearance. Émile was staying at his maternal grandparents' house in the tiny hamlet called Haut-Vernet in the French Alps. I mean, we are talking about 25 residents, with just one road in and one road out. It was July, and a massive heat wave was baking France. The grandfather takes his eyes off the boy for just a moment, and Émile is simply gone. Here is the context that gave me chills. Locals call Haut-Vernet the Village of the Damned. Why? Because in 2015, a Germanwings Airbus crashed right there, killing 150 people. In 2008, the manager of the only local cafe was brutally murdered. It's a place with a history of inexplicable disaster. A heavy, dark cloud seems to hang over these valleys. Neighbors did report seeing Émile walking down the single, narrow road that runs through the village shortly before he vanished. A very brief sighting. Then nothing. From July 9th to July 14th, the search was massive and nonstop. They brought in everything: heat-seeking helicopters, expert canine teams, and hundreds of volunteers. They searched every single building in that tiny village, questioned everyone, and scrubbed the surrounding mountainous terrain. A toddler under 3 years old should be found 95% of the time, within 2 miles or less. But here, they went far outside that zone. Nothing but silence. It was as if the little boy had been instantly and surgically removed from the landscape, leaving absolutely no sign of struggle or passage. This immediate and utter lack of trace is a major marker we see in these baffling cases. Fast forward 8 months. We are in March 2024. The police decide on a massive recreation of the event on March 28th. This is a good idea. Everyone, grandpa, grandma, neighbors, was put back in the exact spot they were standing on July 8th. The police were trying to recreate the sightlines, the moment of the vanishing. Now, friends, we talk about coincidence on this channel. Is everything a coincidence, or are some things a directed response to pressure? The recreation was on March 28th. 48 hours later, on March 30th, A hiker finds something on a trail, not a mile away, 1 kilometer from the grandparents' house. She finds a partial skull and some bones. Forensics confirmed it on March 31st. It was Emile. It happened just after the police put immense pressure on the area and the witnesses. Now, this is the crux of the mystery. The mayor came out and said, there is simply no way Emile went into that area alone. It was steep, rough terrain for a 2-year-old. Furthermore, the official record shows that this specific area had been searched many times by highly trained teams. Loggers had even been in there clearing brush. They found nothing. If those bones had been there for 8 months, the cadaver dogs brought in would have signaled. They do not miss a decomposing body, especially not in a heat wave. This suggests the remains were placed there, either by an animal or a human. Shortly before the discovery, the analysis of the skull showed post-mortem trauma, evidence of being carried by an animal. But why the cranium and some upper teeth, but not initially the lower jaw or the full skeleton? It's almost calculated, almost as if someone returned the piece necessary for positive identification to relieve the conscience. But no more. We now pivot to a different time and a different wilderness. We are going to Canada. The year is 1949. The young man's name was Gillis Gray, 16 years old. He lived in Val-d'Or, Quebec, on Sunday, June 26th. He told his mom he was going fishing at Lake Blouin. Gillis was not some novice. He knew the woods. He knew the water. It was a routine trip, a trip to be alone with his thoughts. When the story broke, the local press immediately ran with a cruel and false narrative. They said he had failed school, was depressed, and was suicidal. His mother later had to clarify the press was wrong. Gillis had a plan. He had interviewed for a prestigious, high-paying job at the biggest mine in the area, and he was scheduled to start the very next morning. He was not running away from life. He was walking towards it. This pattern of media misinformation and character assassination following a missing 411 event is disturbingly common. The search started immediately. Experienced woodsmen from 100 miles around were brought in, 200 searchers, seaplanes, and loudspeakers blasting messages. The heat and humidity were intense. We see this often in these clusters extreme. Debilitating weather that complicates the search effort. The best tracking dogs from Toronto arrived. Now, listen to this very closely. One of the dogs fell ill from the heat within 5 hours and had to be carried out. The second dog was attacked. And I've never read this detail anywhere else in my research. Viciously attacked by black flies and mosquitoes, to the point where it had to be pulled completely from the search. It's almost as if the natural world itself was trying to protect the secret of the forest. Or perhaps something non-natural was interfering with the canine's ability to track. After days of searching, a searcher finally found Gillis's coat. Mrs. Gray confirmed it was his. They now had a definite point last seen. They focused all resources around that coat. They searched through the night, built bonfires, and called his name into the darkness. Silence. But here is the major anomaly. Gillis had a fishing pole and a creel. They found the coat, but the creel and the pole were never found. Why would a fisherman leave his essential gear but discard his coat? This separation of clothing and personal effects is a significant recurring marker in the missing 411 cases. And the final. baffling question. If he fell in the lake, the body should have floated to the surface in the warm June water. But the lake was searched and monitored. Gillis Gray was never found. 2 cases, decades apart. But the patterns echo. In both, an extensive search found nothing. In both, we see strange environmental factors, debilitating heat in France and aggressive insect attacks in Canada. These factors seem to impede the human and canine search efforts. Gillis's case is a prime example of a vanishing with no trace, leaving only an isolated piece of clothing. Emily's case shows us remains appearing in a previously searched, impossible area. What force is at work here? I wish I could tell you we had answers, but we don't. We only have the evidence of the impossible. Repeated across time and geography, I urge you to be aware. The wilderness is vast, and sometimes the rules of reality seem to change when you step off the pavement. If you haven't subscribed to Mystery Rift yet, please do. Stay safe out there. Friends, I'll see you on the next one.